You just check my watch. 12:37. We're 7 minutes past 12:30. So, if you all could come over, do we know where our Whakatāne intermediate students went? They went to the park. Oh, they're picking up rubbish. Well, that's good. We do like that. Okay. So we just had Meg from Extinction Rebellion, Ōpōtiki to come up here and just have a korero with everyone. So just stay tuned. Yeah.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Meg, lako ingoa. Ko Ohiwa Kai. I just want to very briefly tell you the success of Ōpōtiki Rebellion, Extinction Rebellion in Ōpōtiki. In May we held a meeting, had about 50 people turned up. The following month we had a big working bee, we made banners and all sorts of things to prepare for a march down the street, and then 3 weeks later we had a big march down the street. Then we went to the council and we asked them to declare a climate emergency, and they said, oh, we'll have to have a report on that. So they came back the following council meeting, which was just a couple of weeks ago, and they declared a climate emergency, which was the objective. And as a result of that, nearly all the candidates now recognise that there is a climate emergency, and they are, in their campaigns, they are mentioning climate change, whereas before it wasn't even an issue. And we have two of our rebels standing for the council. So let's, what I'm saying is, it's easy, you can do it here. I think have a meeting, get it and get cracking. You have already Nando in the council who's done a lot to raise the issue of climate change in Whakatāne. You have the same issues as Ōpōtiki because we're right by a river, and if the sea level rise, we'll be underwater where we're standing here. So, but that's not enough. The council as a body has to declare a climate emergency and go for it.
We all good? Nobody got injured? Okay, so we also, thank you so much, Meg. Ōpōtiki, Extinction Rebellion Ōpōtiki, check them out on Facebook, whānau, because there's heaps of information up there. They have their own website and they're spread across the country, so definitely get behind that and just really support it, because they're doing it for our earth and for our benefit. We also have the grooviest, the coolest, the cutest little Jasper from Whakatāne Intermediate up here he's written a speech this morning. How great is that? Yes, Jasper. So he wants to share it with you, and I think it's very important that we all listen, because we've got a little legend here. There you go, Jasper.
To everyone who came here, I would like to say thank you. Today we have gathered here to strike, to make our voices be heard as one, to tell the government that we will not stand by while the earth, our home, is destroyed. We want CO2 to stop being put into our air, because we know that it will destroy the ozone layer. I am constantly shocked when people talk about climate change as a bad thing, but then no action is taken. So we need to make changes as a planet to change the climate to a good temperature, to end the crisis, so we can fix others. I admire Greta Thunberg because she is taking a problem that the government is taking no action on, and we must help her and follow in her footsteps to help our world. And once more, I'd like to thank everyone who turned up to protect our climate. Thank you.
Now, Jasper here, I only met him this morning, but already I feel touched and moved by your speech. I feel like you are just a little firework, just ready to pop, Yeah. So I've got a question for you. So in Whakatāne, what do you think that we could do as a community to reduce our carbon emissions or carbon footprint?
Well, as we're known as the sunshine capital, we could do stuff which is used by the sun. We could use solar instead of water energy. Because we are right by the sea, we can change our energy because we have a lot of wind as well, so that can help with energy. Yep.
so much, Jasper. A round of applause for Jasper.
That is so amazing. I bet it's pretty amazing for everyone to see how so much passion can fit into such a young child. And I think that it's amazing because the best way that we're going to get through this is by being authentic and open and having raw discussions and being open to different opinions. And it's so good to see young people so passionate, because that's when you need to be the most radical while you can, while there's not as much consequences. So our panellists today, we're going to have a few speakers such as Mawera, the beautiful, and Papa Po, Toi, Victor Luca, who's on his way. Kia ora, look at him on his bike. There we go, that's the purpose of this whole thing. Kia ora. So we're going to have the panellists up here, and we will open the floor if anyone has any questions. If anyone also wants to speak or come and say something, let anyone in high-vis jackets know. We'll be absolutely honoured to have you guys speak. So we'll get them up here. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and ask. Otherwise, we'll have some questions on our phone written out. And yeah, thank you. So we'll get the panel ready.
Come on.
Yes, I love it here. It's the best place ever. That's my youngest of 4 children, Jack, who goes to Ōpōtiki Beach School. And I'm standing for the DHB, but really I do a lot of cool stuff. I sit on Bay Trust and get to go and talk to people about climate issues, and really I think I've just got a really lucky life. So it's my honour to be here today, support our young people, to support our environment, and to do my bit to make a difference. Kia ora. Oh, one thing, our family's made a commitment. Every week we will pick a new thing that we're going to change to make a difference, and it has to be an enduring change, not something that's temporary. So I challenge everyone else to do that same thing.
Kia ora. Tēnā rā tātou. Ko toi kai rāku iti tōku ingoa he uri o te māhurehure mai te whārua o Ruatoki. Kia ora, my name is Toi, and I live in Ruatoki. It is a pleasure to be here. Nā mihi nunui kia koutou katoa, kua tae mai ki te tautoko tēnei kaupapa. He mihi hoki ki kia koutou. You fellas who have organised all of this, it's choice as. And it's a real pleasure to be here. It really, really is. Tēnā rā tātou.
Kia ora, everybody. My name is Vittorio Luca. I called myself Victor because nobody can say Vittorio, and that's been the same all my life. I was born, raised here, and I went to Whakatāne High School. I've got a doctorate in chemistry. I'm a research scientist by training. We work on data, facts, and evidence. I did science because I wanted to make a difference. I'm not sure I've done that. Maybe a small difference. I'm standing for mayor because I'd like to make a difference to the community that I'm a product of. I guess we all believe in science. I don't know. I ask people often to raise their hands to see a show of hands as to who believes that climate is being changed by humans. And most of the time, it's a majority. In Whakatāne High School, it was about 60%, which I would have liked to have seen it a bit higher. In Te Teko, it was about 95%. I'm here to tell you that the evidence, I've been looking at it for 30 years, is solid. I think science is the best knowledge we have. We got to where we are thanks to scientific knowledge. We have lifestyles today, even the most humble of us, that are better than those of kings and queens only a short while ago. And that's largely due to science. We believe science when we pick up our mobile phones or our toys, when we go to the doctor. I think we believe in it. But I think I'm preaching to the converted here. It would be nice to see the whole town here. I think we're going to be faced with some serious challenges. That's what the science is saying. It's almost unanimous. And I mean, I get into arguments with some people, but they don't read the literature, the scientific literature. If you read what's in the newspapers or listen to what you hear on TV, you're likely to be sold a furphy. You have to go to the source of the information. That's what I spend my time doing. The scientific consensus on anthropogenic climate change is about 97+%. Most scientists that dedicate their lives to studying this subject are in agreement, and it's very seldom in science that the agreement is so strong. I'm not an expert in climate science. I work in environmental issues. But if a climate scientist tells me that if climate scientists in general think that something's going to happen, then I'm inclined to believe it. I don't want to take the risk that they are wrong. So it's better to be prepared than to be surprised. And I think that things could get even worse than what they're saying. Thanks very much.
So that's our quick introduction of the panels. Just in relation to that, though, you said about the media and newspaper. I'm not sure if any of you guys are aware, but this morning I was watching the AM show, and good old Duncan Garner, so opinionated. He was basically having a dig at young Greta, saying that we don't need to worry about climate change. It's not really happening, and we should stop blaming corporations such as, the agriculture industry, for emitting so much CO2 in our atmosphere. And basically, we've got loads of time. We don't need to worry about it. And so I just want to ask you guys, what are your opinions on that? Like, people that are denying the science and are just... they're targeting, how old is Greta, 16? She's doing so much. She's created this huge movement, and they've gone past the point of critiquing her knowledge, and they're going more into the way she speaks, her Asperger's, that kind of stuff. I just want to know, from your point of view, like, what do you guys think about that situation? If you guys do know about the Duncan Garner thing, and yeah.
I think that fear makes people do really dumb things, and fear and ignorance is a really bad combination. And so if you get someone who's ignorant and afraid and give them a platform, they turn into a bully. And that's what people like Duncan Garner do. All you can do is keep presenting information back to that person in the hope that you find the right words to show them what's the reality. And you do that by keeping the conversation going. You can't just ignore them, because that's never going to empower them with knowledge. You have to just keep finding different ways to say things until they get it. And hopefully there's enough support around the person that they're victimising at the time that it doesn't stop them from wanting to keep going with their journey. Yeah, that's not cool.
The reality is that there are many people, many parties who have a vested interest in this not changing. And so they are going to attack, because they have, that's a protection mechanism. Learning to differentiate between quality information and noise is really important, because if any of you are on social media, you'll see a whole lot of really bad false news. You'll see your friends posting false news. Getting into debates with people on social media just doesn't work. People entrench themselves, and what is happening around the world is we are polarizing ourselves. We're entrenching inside of our camps, and we have to be really careful not to do that from this side either. We have to continually try to reach out to look past their stupidity, their insecurity, their fear, and we have to continually, we were out with Federated Farmers last night at the Cosy Club in Edgecombe, and a lot of them are scared. And fear makes you do funny things. They're wanting to protect themselves and their family, and I understand where they come from. They're scared of change. Change is scary. Change is difficult. So I think our job is to continually reach out, to find empathy, for the way that they are and the way they see things, regardless of the way that they are, and continue to build those bridges, because otherwise it's just war, and war just causes trauma. So koina, ai kia ora.
Duncan, I don't know him on a personal level or any level for that matter, but he's there, I suppose, to stir things up. And as far as I know, he's no scientist. This is a scientific issue. The science is settled. There's nothing to argue about. These people try and make it sound like as if it's a debate. I was at a National Party meeting before the campaign started, and the Shadow Minister for Forestry was there. He starts to paint it like as if scientists can't get to an agreement, and I asked him, how do you think the debate is? Is it 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, or what is it? You know what? He couldn't answer me. He expounded for 5 or 10 minutes on climate change, an area in which he has absolutely no expertise. And at the end of the day, he said 50-50. The answer is 97 plus. Here are the papers. I bet he hasn't read any of them. Anyway, it's a scientific issue. Let's get some people who know something there to talk about it, not people like Duncan.
I must agree. Duncan. Get rid of Duncan. Yeah, entertainment. Oh. Exactly. So also in myself personally, I've always been very environmentally focused, and I've been on panels I've been on groups such as Youth Council. I was chairperson for Youth Council last year, and I had a very environmental focus, and I really wanted to educate the rangatahi within our community about the impacts or possible impacts that could affect us, considering we are a coastal town. And we're seeing that sea levels are rising, and coastlands and Ōhopi ain't going to look flash if it's underwater. So I just want to know, you guys, what do you think the Whakatāne Council could do to ensure that we are meeting the constant changes and that we are fighting for something? And like I understand with the agricultural sector and everything, I understand that it's a income for whānau. I totally understand that, but it's not about completely ruining and demolishing the farming industry. It's about creating sustainable solutions and sustainable ways to help counteract or reduce our carbon footprint. So I just want to know what you guys think about what the council could do specifically to, whether it's be declare a climate emergency or whether it's some practices that can be put in place.
It's kind of funny if you think 3 years ago at the last election, and I remember standing up and talking a lot about climate change, and the rooms gave a collective sigh as everyone went, oh no, not that thing again. And 3 years later, the community's voice has changed, and people are concerned, and they're properly researching and trying to learn about what are the implications of this. And I've noticed that there are a few councillors who are sort of indicating that they have got this bent towards climate change action, but it doesn't take much scratching of the surface of that bit of greenwashing to get to a complete lack of knowledge or understanding. And that is really sad to me. I think if people are going to put their hand up and say that they are supporting climate change initiatives, they should actually understand what it is that they're talking about. In terms of a climate change emergency declared by our council, that is inevitable, it has to happen. The problem is that as soon as you call something an emergency, that is a call to immediate action, and I don't believe that there is the right leadership on our council at the moment to be able to drive that action. There needs to be people sitting at that table who, one, understand what climate change is, and two, have got some ideas on what the solutions are that we as a community can undertake. In the meantime, we as individuals, as families, as businesses, as schools, as organisations, all can do our bit to take responsibility for what we're doing, and in that way inspire our council to take proper action. Kia ora.
I'm running for regional council.
Yay, toy.
That's my one little plug. the difference between regional council and district council takes care of a whole lot of things like your drinking water, your storm water, your rubbish, your sewage, and a range of other things. The regional council deals with allocation of water take from rivers, from aquifers, for discharge into rivers, for land use and for air quality. I don't know why it is that way, it just is. That's the way that we've organised things. The regional council has announced a climate emergency. That's great. But we risk devaluing the word emergency if, after we announce a climate emergency, we don't, like Mawera said, take the action that says we're in an emergency. If you announce an emergency on one hand and then you continue to invest in things like horticulture, like kiwi fruit, which is a luxury fruit with a huge carbon footprint for export, I think there is a dissonance. Like you are totally correct. You are correct in saying that people's livelihoods. So it brings back to a fundamental question for me about what it is that we use money for. And what it is that we're doing, because as I'm going around with district council, with mayoral candidates, with council candidates, here, Kawerau and in Ōpōtiki, people talk about jobs, they want jobs, and I understand that. But you get a job so that you can get money, so that you can buy things, and what are we buying with these things? It comes back to our basic consumption behavior. And we're trading this incredible, the only planet, knowable planet in the vast vacuum of space that supports life, and we trade it for trinkets. It's insanity. It makes zero sense. I don't care about your Rolex or your Porsche or your 2,000 square meter luxury property on the beachfront. Those aren't measures of success for me. Success is vibrant community working with nature. I don't know what the district council is going to do. I don't know what the regional council is going to do. To be honest, I'm running for it, and I'm scratching my head, looking around at places like Edgecombe, and how long do we continue to invest in a place that is built on a floodplain? We don't have enough money to protect our people from 1 in 200, 1 in 300 year events. We didn't really do that well in a 1 in 100 year event. That's the reality of our situation. But how do you tell people, oh, sorry, that's happening out of Mataatua at Ōpōtiki. Sorry, you fellas got to move. That's only 15 houses. That's not a town. So in terms of long-term planning, we're going to keep putting plasters over it because, well, we spend 6 million here or 10 million there. When do we get to that point when we move? Probably when an event happens and it gets wiped out. Because throughout mankind's history, that has happened. And the whole place gets wiped out and we go, oh, okay, we better move. So, sorry, no easy answer. Kia ora.
Kia ora. I mean, I agree with everything that my friends to the right have said. There's a number of aspects to this. One is to try and avert the situation that's coming. So I think, the government is talking about a zero carbon bill, and it's an absolute must. I think we all realise that Aotearoa, New Zealand, is only 0.2% of total global emissions. We are nothing. But if a country like ours can't set an example, if we can't show the path for the biggest emitters on the planet to change the way they do things, then we're all in trouble. And I think we can. I think we can lead the way. And I think we have to. There is no choice. Should we declare an emergency? If you believe the science, logic dictates that you declare an emergency. But like Toy said, declaring emergencies, that's a symbolic thing. You know, if it's a declaration of emergency and no action, then what's the point? You know, during the war we declared emergency. There was a thing called the Manhattan Project that said, you know, if the Germans get the bomb, we've had it. So we better pull out all the stops and do something. There was the Sputnik thing, trying to get to space before the Russians did. It was done because it was an emergency. If we don't declare an emergency, then I don't see how we're going to do anything. What can we do as a council? That was the question. Well, apart from averting the situation that's coming, I think we need to focus a bit on protection. Now, you know, let's just say that we can stop warming where it is. The 1 in 100, the 1 in 300 year floods are not going to come in every 100 and 300 years. We might start seeing them coming every 10 years, and then with increasing frequency. So, I've seen the water in the river here less than a metre from the top of the stop bank. Should we think about raising the stop banks? It's something that needs to be looked into. The council has control of that. What about a second bridge? I've already staked my colours to the mast on that one. I think we need it. I think we can make arguments to central government to get it. It's a $34 million project. It's not an infinite amount of money. I know we're driven by money, and as Toy said, and I've said it before, you can't drink money when you're in the desert. There's no cost on fresh air and clean water and good soil. It's priceless. So, you know, I mean, but with $34 million, you can get a few houses along here, maybe 10 of them, and you've got $34 million. It's not an enormous amount either, and it's something we could relatively easily do. Now, we all live here. We're able to live in this river floodplain because we've already installed mitigation measures. So I think we need to swing into protection mode as well as setting an example mode. And, you know, it's not going to affect me or any of the older folk here. We're all going to be dead before the shit hits the fan. It's going to be you young fellas that are really going to pay the price. And so the older people need to ask themselves seriously how much they love their kids and how much they love their kids' kids, because that's what we've got to do. So if a marina can be done in a way that preserves the environment and it is funded not through your money, not through rates, but through other sorts of investments, then it's something to look at. I'm not going to say anything on it because I don't have enough information at the moment. I know that there is a Māori cemetery over there, and that can't be touched, and that's fine. I believe that there is acreage going that way that potentially could be used, and they've talked about retirement villages and marinas. I don't know. Let's see the project. I can't talk about things I don't know about.
Have we got any other questions? Oh, choice.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou, huri tēnei no raukau aki te kākaro whātitiri me ana kia koutou. Engari noho ana au i raro i te whakaruru hau o pūtau aki, i runga i ngā whenua o ngā te awa, no reira he mihi tēnei ki ngā mana whenua. Nō konei, he pātai tāku kia koutou. Whilst you note that the science is indisputable, and I agree, scientists are telling us that this is happening. My perspective is that actually this is a political issue and this is an economic issue. Because if the science tells us that it's indisputable, the inaction that is happening in our communities is a political decision. It's not a scientific decision. The other thing that I want to, this is leading to a question, I promise. The other thing that I do want to say is that you're absolutely right. We live in a capitalist society. That capitalism was enforced on Māori. It was enforced on Māori through colonisation. It was enforced on Māori through things like patriarchy, and we continue to buy into that system. This is not only an issue for all of us here. This is a treaty issue. This is an issue about te tiriti and about tino rangatiratanga. Te tiriti guaranteed Māori tino rangatiratanga over our lands, waters and ngā taonga katoa. We can't have rangatiratanga if there's nothing here, if we're not here. So my question to you is, what are you going to do? What is your approach to engaging in a meaningful te tiriti partnership with mana whenua to address climate issues?
I'm not running for council, so I haven't got an answer from the council perspective. But what I have got is an answer from, well, I don't know if it's an answer, but it's a bit of a thing for me around the Māori wards and the nonsense of that last vote, where Māori were given the opportunity to vote to have representation at the council table, but everybody knows that the percentage of the Māori vote is so small, there was no way we were ever going to be able to get that across the line, and we had to rely entirely on non-Māori to support that. So again, not actually given our right to make our own choices, and then have to fight against all those what are they called? What's that group called? Don Brash's group, Hobson's Pledge, and all of those guys who sent out all their information saying that everything Māori is bad. And basically, every time we think we're going to get the opportunity to make some progress on that partnership, to have a voice, to participate, to actually be able to use the Māori economy for the benefit of the whole community, we are just robbed of it again and again and again, to the point where Māori just are going to give up and not have any faith at all in democracy. And that is really, really tragic. That's my answer to that.
Kia ora e hoa. He pātai nui tēnei, kia ora. And you're absolutely correct on many fronts. Capitalism was forced upon us. It is only just a system that's been around for a period. Māori, we had our own economic system based on whanaungatanga, manaakitanga, and these other concepts. There are other ways that we can organise ourselves as people inside of communities, other than having to trade through money and reserve banks and banks, because they control us, they control the way we do things. And largely, just councils and government are part of that whole system. We're inside of it. We participate. We're natives within this system. Our connection to the past is tā tātou reo rangatira. It's all of our knowledge is still tied in. Mai te nāhere tērā reo. That's where it was formed. It was formed in the bush, in our natural, our observation of nature. So that is why Mātauranga Māori is a map to guide us back to our mother, Papatuanuku. So that is what I am attempting to take to Regional Council. It is just a role to go to that forum, to sit at that table and to have those conversations, to stand inside of our values as tangata whenua, to say, actually this is how we see the world, and we have the right to see the world in this way. Respectfully, I know that you see the world in another way. So how do we, you mentioned Hobson Pledge, we're one New Zealand. Which one New Zealand are we? This is why it's important that you all go and learn te reo Māori. Because te reo Māori will bring us together as a country. It is the one indigenous language of our country. If we all learn it, then we could be making that step towards coming one people. Because we share this waka together. So when I hear people like Don Brash talk about one people, I'm like, well, we're supposed to be like you, cuz. I certainly don't want to be like you, bro. Why don't you be like me? That's the question that you're always having at those sorts of tables. So that's just one place where we where we practice, but we got to, work these on all angles. I come from an activism background for whakapapa, and we got to do that too. You got to take direct action like at Ōpōtiki, and you have to, it is the organising of community, like what you fellas are doing here today, that makes politicians listen. You got to get the people, you have to organise. But in terms of, it gets very legal very quickly when you talk about the treaty. When you talk about district councils and how the nuts and bolts of it work and the machinery of councils inside of national policy statements and framework, we've got the mana o te wai and these concepts now getting put into the legislative framework and the policy framework. We have to work all of the angles. I'll be sitting at the table, fingers crossed. I want to go and do that mahi because I think it's important mahi, and I think I can do that mahi. We need those ones who are down in Wellington doing their mahi. We need those who are doing their mahi at Ōpōtiki. We need these gatherings. And then you need your hapu back home. Hey, we like to talk about mana motuhake and Tūhoi. We cannot have mana motuhake when we're dependent on pack and save. So we got to learn how to grow our own food. We got to do that mahi. It cannot be just lip service about kaitiakitanga. That is an action word, mahi a tinana. And it takes you doing that mahi in your community. And that's there's many things we don't have control over. What you do have control over is your values, your choices, and how you choose to live your life. This climate change issue is now an ethical and moral issue. You know how it's unethical to steal stuff off other people, to harm other people? Where you buy your food and knowing where your food comes from or where your clothing comes from is becoming an ethical and moral issue. We can come here today and talk about these things as Māori as well, and preach as Māori. I often say this, we will do beautiful karakia, and we'll invoke haumie tiki tiki, rongo mai tāne, and all these personifications of these ahua tai ao. And we'll do that, and then we'll sit down to a good industrialised meal of industrialised sausages. The complete antithesis of what we were just invoking. Well, we got to look at that, because we can't look across the table and go, you Pākehā is this, you Pākehā is that, and then, and that's the difficulty of this mahi. And that's the moral and ethical things that so education, ourselves, learn te reo. I think that's the first step. Kia ora.
Well, you said that the science was all signed, sealed and delivered. I think that was sort of a bit, it's not 100%, but it's close. Well, I've noticed that in terms of environmental values, that Pākehā and Māori are sort of starting to converge. I don't know if we're that far apart. He said I should be like him. But before I can be like him, I need to know who he is. So maybe we'll get to know each other. I think we all are starting to get the picture that without the environment, we aren't anything. All of us. We can't live without it. And so I think it's going to require a concerted effort on all of our parts. He talked about values. My parents came here as poor immigrants from Italy without a cent in their pockets, running away from the war. They've had gardens in their quarter-acre section, at the back of their quarter-acre section, all their lives. The old man could almost feed all 7 of us with what was growing in that plot at the back of our garden. My brothers have got gardens now. Me, I don't even have a house. So I don't have a garden yet, but if I get one, I will have one. I think we all have to appreciate nature because, like I said, without it, we're nothing. And we have to do it together. I can't undo 200 years of history either overnight. then I think the council has a role in bringing people together. And, well, he's a good voice on regional council. And we're a democracy. I think capitalism is starting to come undone as we've known it. I think Aotearoa changed in the 70s. I saw the change. We went from a more socialistic society to a more capitalistic and selfish society. I see us more materialistic than we ever were. Everybody's pulling for themselves. We're losing community, and I think that's a big shame. We think that a friend is someone on the other end of a Facebook page. I don't have Facebook, and I'm proud to say I don't have it. I don't like the fact that a guy could become the richest guy in the world by setting up an internet site where we can put our photos of ourselves. I think it's a symbol for what's wrong with the bloody place. So I think there's a lot of things we need to do. We need to work on, there's a Harvard study, the most important study on human health that's been going on the planet that started in 1937. And you know what the conclusions are so far? It's still ongoing. That the most important determinant in the health of people are their relationships. And I think we're losing that, and we are a community, and we have to do it all together. This is a fight we have to do together. It's not going to take one person, one culture, one religion, one people, one colour. It's all of us. We're all in the shit together, so we have to get out of it together.
Hi guys, I know it's starting to rain and get windy and cold, so thanks so much for sticking around. We thought just now that it would be interesting to put these guys under the pump. We're going to put you guys under the pressure a little bit. Spitfire answers, okay? So we're going to ask a few questions. You get to answer 30 seconds each. We're going to have a timer, and we will just open, raw, whatever you feel. The best way to be is authentic. Just quickly before we start, some glasses have been handed in. If anybody's lost them, I'm just going to hand them to Maya, and if they belong to you, just come up to her. Awesome. So I've got the timer, and I'm going to go like this when it's 30 seconds is up. Sweet? And then the mic will be taken off, guys. Cut off. Okay. The first question is, and this is just so we can all be educated, get a few little tips and tricks. What are the simplest ways we can make changes in our everyday lives?
Look at your providers and make sure that they have got a really solid ESG policy that is their environment, their social and their governance policy. Because if you're buying from people who don't give a damn, then you're allowing that. The behaviour that you walk past is the behaviour you accept. I will no longer accept that. So I look at everything that we buy, who are we buying it from, and what is their policy on the environment, what is their policy on social goods, what is their governance policy. So those are simple things that we can all do.
Change the narrative around your education change the narrative around your education. Your education is not about getting a qualification so that you can get a job, so that you can get money, so that you can buy things. Your education is about learning so that you guys can help figure out how to fix us. Really. Utilize the privilege that you have of being able to access education. Take the time, educate yourself on everything that you can. It's not about getting a job. It's about becoming an active, engaged citizen.
Once again, I agree with Curly. It's all about education. I mean, I got educated, but it wasn't to make money. It was to do some good. And I think that if we all got educated to do good, then the world might be a better place. Hey, so it's better be educated than be ignorant. So let's go for it.
Okay, and now just to switch it up, put my good friend Luca under the pump. We'll start with him first. Victoria Luca, right, sorry. Okay, the next question is, what is the biggest misconception of climate change?
I mean, there's I guess there's lots of misconceptions out there. Like I said, the scientific community is pretty much in agreement. The one misconception is that there's actually a scientific debate. I think that's pretty well settled. And I've really got it in for the media and how they're painting it. Some of these morning shows. You know, I found out recently they're trotting out on Magic FM a guy called Willie Soon. He's an astrophysicist. You know who funds his research? ExxonMobil and the Koch brothers. You don't listen to people like that. That's what, you know. Oh, he's not just accidentally here.
The main misconception about climate change is that we think that the challenge ahead of us is our changing climate. The challenge ahead of us is changing ourselves.
What he said.
Kia ora Mawera. Brilliant, very extensive, I love it. Okay, next partai is, and I will start with Toi, the ever so wise. What will Whakatāne look like in 50 years if climate change continues?
Like the takitai. It'll be underwater. If it carries on in 50 years' time, I don't know. Who knows? Mataatua tera whakautu. But, yeah.
Well, I mean, science leaves room for uncertainty. We could all be underwater. That would be an extreme scenario. But at the least, I think that, you know, water levels are rising and there's going to be more extreme events. So I think we have to do something about that if we want to continue to live here. And I think we can. Let's just hope that the worst case scenario doesn't come about and we have to do something quick. And I agree with him that we have to change ourselves as well. But, you know, that's an indirect way of saying the same thing I was saying. We have to change. Climate's changing, we have to change.
What we eat now that we can grow in our gardens and what we're growing around in the community won't be there. We'll have significant changes in our biodiversity. The fish that we're eating in the ocean will change. Animals that we're growing for food, hopefully we will be having a massive change in the way that we farm. But certainly where we get food and what we eat locally will change in 50 years, and that's quite a scary thought, really. But that is a certainty. There's no denying that.
Thanks, guys. You guys do very well. And my concluding question, and then we'll move on and then open it up to the floor again. If any students have any questions, then we'll do that. So the last question is, do you believe that the youth's voice has been heard?
I think you guys need to be louder, and I think that as adults we have been remiss in not providing you with better platforms, and that's on us. There are not enough adults here. In fact, there are not enough students here. There are just not enough people, and we need to get people motivated to hear these messages. But is the youth voice heard? It's beginning to be, but we need to help you to be heard as well. Because what I've come to realise is, while you guys are trying really hard, you can't do it on your own. So if we're not helping you, then we're helping you to fail, and that's not cool.
Yeah, he timata. It needs to be heard more, needs to be, and that's your guys' activation, doing what you're doing. This is not a race, it's not a sprint. This is the rest of your lives. It has to be. So, and it's about succession too. It's about bringing other ones through. So I'm looking forward to working with you fellas.
He timata, what he said. Is this supposed to be a student strike on? Well, where the hell are they all? I agree with Mawera. I mean, you know, this is sort of a symbol of apathy. I mean, this place, I expected this place to be full up. With young and old. The young are most affected, will be most affected, if what science says comes to pass. But, you know, I expected more people here. I think you guys have got to get maybe more active, eh? And we're here to help.
So I got my own little opinion on that. So today is for my high school, it's the cross country, and I emailed all schools about this event and everything, and the hardest part is we don't have enough adults supporting this kaupapa because, they think that cross country, glorifying winning cross country is way more important than saving the future of our planet, and quite frankly I'm over it, which is why when I leave to go to university next year, I'm determined to get a law degree, to educate myself and then come back here, educate my school, educate Trident, educate all the other schools of the importance of the rangatahi future. So, over it.
I emailed one of our teachers at Ōpōtiki Beach School and I said Jack won't be at school on Friday because he's going to the climate strike, and she said I totally support that kaupapa and I wish all the other parents were taking their kids. So there is definitely support in the schools, it's just not enough support with the adults, and that's really annoying.
Now, this National Party meeting that I keep talking about, I heard the guy that I referenced before complaining that teachers at school were teaching the wrong thing about climate change. He's not an educator. He's not a science person. I think that these type of people really need to be silenced. If you're not an expert in an area, why are you talking? I mean, let's leave education to the teachers. Climate change is something that there's solid science foundation. Schools are teaching science.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it is pretty hard to get a lot of students out of school just because, I don't know, everything's very systematic and schools also don't want to get caught up in politics, and so it is hard, but that's what you have to do, right? Someone's got to do it, someone's got to be talked about, someone's got to be looked at, so today that's us. But if there is any Spitfire questions you guys want to ask, feel free to put your hand up. Any students, any parents?
I've got a question. I've got a question for you guys. What next?
Well, for me, I'm year 13, so CJ, so we're moving on next year. I'm hoping to move down to Wellington and study politics and Pacifica studies. So it's really hard to keep the connections here, but luckily we've got some beautiful young rangatahi here from Whakatāne High and some from Trident as well. Thank you guys so much for coming. That we're building a foundation for movements like this to move on to next year. So Tuai will be here next year, Sandra will be here next year, Maya will be here next year. So
So I'm year 12 this year, so I'll be year 13 next year, and ever since my upbringing I knew I wanted to get myself into the positions where I could make change and where I could be that change maker, because like I said, someone's got to do it, and I do like to work for the people on the land, and so I really, next year my main thing is getting Māori and non-Māori together and figuring out things that work for both of us, because there are a wide demographic of people, and that's why we try to do it intergenerational speaking, more workshops that work for rangatahi, more strikes like this, more protests, louder, bigger, as much as we can, and they will get better. The more we do, we'll get more better. Pretty much what Ari said. Go down to Vic and study there. I really want to be a politician, but I don't know if I want to ruin my life that early. But no, I want to be an actual good one, and I want to represent the people, my community, and actually deliver what we're saying to the parliament, like to the table, and stop. That's kind of where I want to go, but I want to support, Te Wai, we've got awesome rangatahi coming up, and these guys down here, all little leaders there, and it's just really exciting, so just supporting them with everything.
How come of the three of you, nobody's doing science? Good, because I've got this mission. I reckon there should be more science politicians that have got science backgrounds. If you look through the New Zealand political list, scientists are conspicuous by their absence. It's full of lawyers. They're all over the place, bickering and carrying on. I think you need to make good decisions, you need to have knowledge. You need to know what you're talking about. A lot of them don't.
Okay, so that concludes our panel for today. Thank you so much for being here. Like you said, we need more adult support, and by you being here gives us that support. And we couldn't have done this without you, so thank you so much. Just from 3 local gals.